Hey folks, quick announcement before starting today's episode. The new course, Collaborating and Building Relationships with Subject Matter Experts, is now live. This course is fully asynchronous so that way you can go in and be able to go through every single module as soon as you enroll. In this course, it's essentially everything I know about how to work with subject matter experts as far as for being able to establish a type of a genuine, real relationship with them, being able to influence, to negotiate, to persuade, especially when you don't have the power, which is an important part of being a instructional designer. And then last but not least, trying to be able to work with someone who is unresponsive. And what do you do? What different types of tactics and strategies can you really use? All of that is inside of a course right now. Feel free to go down below inside of the show notes to find the link for it, or you can just simply go to drlukehobson.com. Can't wait to see you there. Hello, learning nerds, and welcome on in to the nerdiest podcast that you're going to hear today. I'm your host. My name is Dr. Luke Hobson. I'm an instructional designer, author, blogger, and podcaster. And my passion, as you can probably guess, is talking about instructional design and sharing what I know about teaching, learning, and design, and being able to help you in your career. And of course, you can find all of the resources that I have for you over at drlukehobson.com. Today's episode is about side hustles. In early December, LinkedIn News published an article that started with, "Who has enough time for a side hustle?" The article was referring to remote employees being more likely to have a part-time job as compared to hybrid and on-site workers. According to LinkedIn, 31% of U.S. employees are balancing a side hustle with their full-time work. When scrolling through the comments, though, many folks chimed in, saying that being remote has nothing to do with it, and it's all about flexibility in one's schedule. For many people, they mentioned about having part-time work on nights and weekends, while others saying that they just found a way to make things fit in with their daily tasks. For some, seeing 31% might be on the high side, but in my educational network, I've surrounded myself with people who work beyond the typical 9 to 5, and I thought this number was actually on the low side. So I put it to the test. I asked you in my network, do you have a side hustle? 578 of you voted, and 56% said yes. By scrolling through the votes, I saw different types of titles such as instructional designer, teacher, professor, learning experience designer, e-learning designer, and many more. It's safe to say that for those of us in the educational space, we want or need a second income. I don't talk that much about finances on this podcast as it's a show about teaching, learning, and design, but it's an area I'm extremely passionate about. As someone with 3 degrees, almost 4, which is a story for another day, I took out many student loans, and most of these I did out of necessity. Did it because I was naive. I didn't understand what loans really meant when I was 18 or when I was 22, and now at 36, I'm like, that was not the best decision. Simply put, I'm going to be paying these loans for a long, long time, and a 9 to 5 is never going to cut it. So rather than waiting for the government to do something about the $1 trillion problem, which is a rant for another day, I decided I'm just going to work more. I will take matters into my own hands, and I'm going to figure it out. With every new part-time role, though, I learned something along the way. It doesn't make sense at all to rely on one source of income. Layoffs happen, people change, jobs shift, bosses come and go. There are many reasons for why a role isn't a permanent thing. If the worst thing happened and the 9 to 5 went away, what's the backup plan? This really hit home when my alma mater had layoffs, and I never thought in my wildest dreams that this would ever happen, especially for that university. The part of side hustles that is forgotten about and not mentioned inside of LinkedIn News, or intentionally not written about, one of the two, is that this whole idea around side hustles and this work harder mentality is that for many folks, myself included, these part-time positions bring a tremendous amount of joy and fulfillment and value. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my full-time job. I love what I do. But my true passion is teaching. It's why I've been teaching courses since 2014. I fell in love with it, and truly, I had a new sense of purpose when teaching students about instructional design. It made my worlds come together in a completely different way, and I never thought I would be teaching about instructional design, to tell you the truth. But I would never give this up. It is something that I absolutely love to do. I saw many of your comments on my poll saying that you want a side hustle, but you don't know where to start, where to look, or what to even do. Now is a good time also to mention that I hate the phrasing side hustles. It's blah. It's so bro. It completely discounts the joy and the value from a part-time opportunity. But I know that you know what I mean when I say the phrase side hustle. So just FYI, I don't like it, but I know that we are speaking the same language when I mention that. So with that said, let's say you work in education and you want to start a side hustle. What are your options? I've seen folks take a few different approaches with this, so let's go over a few options about you as an educator. What could you potentially do today? The first option is to consider adjunct positions. When I worked at Southern New Hampshire University several years ago, almost every single person I knew that worked there also taught as an adjunct. It's a great source for a second income, and once again, teaching is just so fulfilling. Being able to learn online and with asynchronous courses provides flexibility for students, but also it provides a tremendous amount of flexibility for the instructors. I found that when I started teaching, it was easy to fit this into my schedule with nights and weekends. The other bonus with this type of opportunity is that it's recurring. I'm assuming if you do find the right position for you, this will be available for you several times a year. When I taught at SNU, the courses were offered 6 times a year, meaning I always had a second role. It just became a part of my normal work week. Some online adjunct positions are offered in a more traditional sense, so it's essentially one per semester. One of my close friends, he got around this by teaching at multiple universities at the same time. So hypothetically speaking, if one university didn't give him a course to be able to teach for that semester, he would have the other university to be able to go back to and to teach there for that semester. And he always made sure to be able to have something just in case, so that way he had an opportunity all year round. And his approach is certainly not a bad one. If you wanted to be able to apply to multiple universities so that way you would have a recurring sense of income all year round and do exactly what he did, well, certainly you could do that too. The next opportunity is with presentations and workshops. If you have expertise in a specific area or field, you can market your services for presentations and workshops. There are always professional development opportunities out there. You just need to search for them. I often see these on LinkedIn with posts from people saying that they're looking for speakers and they are requesting proposals or contact information, and then they can kind of go from there. Many organizations are still hosting these via Zoom, by the way, which provides more possibilities and more flexibility for you if you really want to be able to do this or to essentially join like the conference circuit if that's what you want to be able to do. If you are considering this path, I'd highly suggest to listen to my episode with Dr. Tom Tobin. We discussed in one episode the alternative academic careers, and he wrote a book about this with his colleagues. I'll put a link into the show notes for that one. And it discusses many of these different types of ways about how to be able to do a lot of the things I'm covering today, actually, on this podcast episode. But he also discussed, too, about finding out your rate as far as for how much that you should be getting paid and a few other different things that are extremely helpful. So definitely go down to the show notes, listen to that episode if you haven't yet already. And I think that was episode 75, which is crazy because that was so many episodes ago at this point in time. The next opportunity is consulting and working with clients. This one is a bit unique in nature. I'm always shocked when I hear from people that their backup plan is that they're like, oh, I could just do consulting. And the first thing that I say to them is, have you tried consulting? Because I think it's a lot harder than you perceive it to be. It's already challenging to find clients in the first place. It's another layer of complexity to find people that are going to value your insight and your work, to compensate you fairly, to not make you work extra hours without trying to nickel and dime you. It's a whole process. It's this song and dance. It's a back and forth. There's a lot more to it than most folks don't realize. Some of my friends have shared with me true nightmare situations that I have heard of where they were locked into working with a client because of the contract. They sent invoices, they never got paid, and it just super messy. So if you want to go down this road, it's entirely possible. Not trying to scare you, by the way. Now, hearing myself talk, I feel like I just dissuaded you from doing that. But you can certainly do this if you want to be able to do this. Just please do it in a smart fashion and think critically about who you're going to be working with. To help prepare you for this type of information, check out my podcast episode with Christy Tucker. I think that was episode 57. We discussed about everything freelance. I asked her about establishing LLCs. I asked about taxes. I asked about a lot of things with Christy, and she was so kind to be able to come on the show and share many, many amazing tips about being a freelance designer. If you want to know where to find clients, by the way, that's always the number one thing is that I want to do this, but where do I find people? It's networking. It's always networking, folks. I feel like we talk about networking like all the time, but it's true. That is the legitimate, real answer. Anything I have ever done in the freelance space has come from my network, and that's really what works. Yes, there are websites that you can try to be able to bid on different types of opportunities, like with Fiverr and Upwork, and there's a bunch of them for more of the freelance roles, but those also come with several cons as well. So once again, I would highly encourage you to build out your network because the more connections, the more opportunities you're going to have in the future. And the last option, I'm going to lump these two things together, is digital courses and coaching. It feels like we're in this era of edupreneurs, educators. They market themselves as experts and they have digital products and services that they offer. Now, I would consider myself an edupreneur in this state, and I've been pleasantly surprised to see how many folks have enrolled in Instructional Design Institute because they want to know how to be able to create the very best courses possible to sell to their target audience. And the thing is that it's easier than ever to create online courses with entrepreneur-friendly websites like Kajabi, Teachable, Thinkific. There's many of them. Of course, they all have their pros and cons for things, but it's getting pretty darn easy to be able to do. Or you can just simply set up a coaching page with Calendly and Stripe, and there you go. You have a coaching page. I've even seen folks do this in a super simplistic yet effective way that gets the job done, like with Jason Golia and his AI services. I'll link to that in the show notes for you to be able to see it. It's just a Google form. That's all he did. But it works and it gets the job done. So all this to say is that the technology is out there to be able to set up a new gig rather quickly. The massive factor with this, though, and specifically on digital courses, is that I beg you, please be realistic. There are many people out there who are going to promise you the ability to quit your 9-to-5 and take this on full time, and that it's some sort of magical dream that you can just become this overnight millionaire sensation thing. And for all that is holy, please don't do this. It's a disaster waiting to happen. And just to have this form of a mentality that somehow there is this get-rich-quick scheme it's just not true. I'm pretty sure all of you are very, very smart, and you wouldn't fall for this. But just in case, there is some very sketchy things out there with folks being able to sell you on the idea of how to sell courses, and it's just odd. It's gross. It's very, very weird. And that's not to say that there aren't credible sources out there online who can help you out, but the most feel like they're filled with very sketchy people. So I would have a word of warning and a bit of caution for looking at some of these things. So there are many, many, many factors to consider when selling digital products that I don't have time to cover in one episode, but that's my PSA for you on this matter. I do have a lot of friends actually in this space, and I think I'll bring some on the show. It would be great to interview people who have been able to build out their businesses in the right way and to be able to educate you on how to start up this venture if this is what you're looking to be able to do. Well, those are the most common methods I could think of off the top of my head when it comes to being able to start up a side hustle, to look for a new opportunity, to look for a second source of income. Those things definitely do come to mind. But feel free, go down below in the comments section and tell me, is there something else that I haven't thought about? Is there something else that you are currently doing but you have found that is working out very well for you for a type of a side hustle? Please feel free to share away. Would love to be able to learn more about what you're up to. And I've been getting a lot of emails from you asking me about when the next cohort for Instructional Design Institute is starting up again for the course on the Instructional Design Fundamentals. And the next cohort, the seventh, insane, 7 cohorts at this point in time. The 7th cohort is going to be launching on February 24th. And after that, my next idea that I have is that I want to be able to take the live course and then to be able to offer a asynchronous version, by the way, to have more of a flexible version for you. The thing in 2025, which is my goal, and I'm saying it out loud so that way I can hold myself accountable and you can hold me accountable too, is that I want to be able to keep on providing more different types of courses for you, but I want to make them as flexible as I can. So if you want a live version of something, I can try to provide that. If you want more of a completely asynchronous, do it at your own pace and time version of a course, I want to have a version of that as well. So trying to think more about flexibility for you and different types of options, that is really what I am trying to do behind the scenes. And a part of more options is to provide more voices for you within Instructional Design Institute. I have many friends who are smarter than me, and I want to be able to come have them join IDI and to offer their own courses. With that said, if you haven't seen it yet, Dr. Nicole Latois, who came on the show a couple of episodes ago to talk all about accessibility for learning experiences, she is offering a new course in IDI that's called Making Online Content Accessible for All. And that course is launching on Monday, January 13th. Once again, going to go down below in the show notes, and I'll be sure to put in a link for that too. And that, folks, that is all I have for you today. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. As always, stay nerdy out there, and I'll talk to you next time.